Ethan had never been good at sharing space. He liked things a certain way. His coffee made strong, his clothes folded neatly, his thoughts kept to himself. When his old apartment lease ended, he'd planned to live alone again. But life had other plans, and that's how Liam entered the picture. They'd met through a mutual friend who said Liam was looking for a roommate near downtown. "He's easygoing," the friend had said, "and he's studying physical therapy, so if you ever get sore, you've got a free masseur." Ethan had laughed at the time, not realizing how oddly prophetic that comment would turn out to be. Liam was everything Ethan wasn't, lighthearted, social, the kind of guy who greeted the morning with music playing and scrambled eggs sizzling. The apartment felt different with him around, brighter, warmer, less silent. At first, Ethan found it mildly irritating, but over time, he grew used to the rhythm of Liam's presence, the hum of his voice, the smell of his coffee, the occasional knock on his door just to ask if he wanted takeout. Ethan had a boyfriend, Tyler, who lived in Chicago. They'd been together for nearly 3 years, but distance had built invisible walls between them. Calls had become routine, texts more practical than affectionate. Sometimes Ethan would stare at his phone, waiting for a reply that didn't come, feeling foolish for caring more than he should. It was on one of those evenings, when stress sat heavy between his shoulders, that things began to shift. He'd spent 10 hours designing a campaign for a demanding client. By the time he got home, his body ached and his mind buzzed with exhaustion. He threw his bag on the couch and rubbed the back of his neck. Liam noticed immediately. He was sitting at the counter scrolling through notes on his tablet. "Rough day?" he asked, his voice casual but warm. "You could say that," Ethan muttered, loosening his tie. "Feels like my spine's made of concrete," Liam grinned. "I could fix that. You know, massages are literally part of my coursework. I could use the practice, and you look like you need it." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "A massage? From you?" Liam laughed. "Yeah, dude. I promise I've got professional hands. No funny business." Ethan hesitated for a beat. It wasn't that he didn't trust Liam. He did. But something about the idea made him weirdly self-conscious. Still, his back screamed for relief, and pride wasn't going to untie the knots in his shoulders. "Fine," he said finally, dropping onto the couch. "But if you break me, you're paying my hospital bills." "Deal," Liam said, rolling up his sleeves. He came back with a small bottle of unscented oil from his study kit. The TV hummed quietly in the background, casting faint blue light across the room. Liam's hands were warm, steady, and confident. The first press against Ethan's shoulder made him wince, then sigh with relief. "Whoa," Ethan breathed out. "You weren't kidding. Told you," Liam said with a small smile. "You're wound up like a coiled spring." "Yeah," Ethan said softly. "Guess I've been carrying too much." For a while, they talked about nothing. Random jokes, stories from college, music. But as the minutes passed, the conversation faded into silence. The only sounds left were the soft rhythm of Liam's breathing and the quiet crackle from the TV. Ethan felt oddly calm. The tension in his body slowly unraveled. But in its place came a strange awareness. The closeness, the warmth, the ease of it all. He hadn't felt that kind of care in months. "You're good at this," Ethan murmured, eyes closed. Liam chuckled softly. "Guess it helps when the person's comfortable." "Yeah," Ethan replied after a pause. "I am comfortable." Something in the air shifted then. Not dramatic, just subtle, like a change in lighting. Ethan opened his eyes for a second and caught Liam's focused expression. There was nothing inappropriate in it, yet something about the moment felt intimate. Not in a way that crossed lines, but in a way that blurred them ever so slightly. When the session ended, Liam patted his shoulder lightly. "There, that should help. Drink some water, you'll feel it tomorrow." Ethan turned his head to look at him. "Thanks, man, seriously, I needed that." "Any time," Liam said, smiling. "You're not the first stressed roommate I've had to rescue." Ethan laughed weakly. "Guess I should count myself lucky." That night, after Liam went to bed, Ethan sat alone in the dim light of the living room. His phone buzzed with a message from Tyler. Just a quick, "Busy, call you later." He read it twice before setting the phone down. For a long moment he stared at the closed door of Liam's room. The apartment was quiet, but the air still carried traces of that shared moment. The calm, the touch, the reminder of what it felt like to be seen. He told himself it was nothing. Just a friendly gesture, just relief after a hard day. But when he lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling, his mind replayed the sound of Liam's voice, the warmth of his hands, and that unspoken pause between words. It wasn't attraction, he told himself, just appreciation. Still, as he drifted off to sleep, Ethan couldn't help but wonder, if it really was just that simple, why did it feel so complicated? The next morning felt heavier than usual. Ethan woke early, hoping to shake off the weird tension that lingered from last night. The sunlight spilling through the blinds painted soft lines across his room, but his mind refused to rest. He kept replaying the moment on the couch, the way Liam's hands felt steady, how silence didn't feel awkward, how his chest had tightened not from pain, but from something he couldn't name. When he finally stepped into the kitchen, Liam was already there, barefoot, hair messy, flipping pancakes like he did every weekend. He turned with that easy smile, completely unaware of the storm swirling inside Ethan's chest. "Morning, champ," Liam said cheerfully. "Coffee's ready," Ethan nodded, avoiding eye contact. "Thanks. You sleep okay?" Liam asked, sliding a mug across the counter. "Yeah," Ethan lied. Yeah, I guess," Liam shrugged, not pressing further. "Good. You were really tense yesterday." "Hope it helped a little." "It did," Ethan admitted, taking a sip of coffee. "Maybe too much," Liam laughed softly. "Too much?" Ethan smirked, hiding his unease. "You might have set a new standard for stress relief." "I'll never survive another desk job again." They both chuckled, and for a moment, the tension dissolved. But it didn't disappear completely. It lingered beneath the surface, quiet but undeniable. Over the next few days, Ethan tried to push the thought aside. He told himself it was just comfort, nothing more. But small moments kept feeding the confusion. Liam brushing past him in the kitchen, his easy grin when their eyes met, the way he always seemed to notice when Ethan needed space. Or company. On Friday night, Ethan had a video call with Tyler. He'd been putting it off for days, hoping things would somehow feel better, more normal. But when Tyler's face appeared on the screen, something inside him felt distant. "Hey," Tyler said, distracted, adjusting his headphones. "Sorry, work's been crazy." "Yeah," Ethan replied quietly. "It's been rough here too." They talked for a few minutes, mostly small talk about work, weather, nothing real. Tyler checked his phone mid-conversation twice. The warmth that used to fill their talks was gone, replaced by a kind of mechanical politeness. "Listen," Tyler finally said, glancing at his watch. "I've got to go." "Early meeting tomorrow?" "We'll talk later, okay?" Ethan wanted to say something, anything to stop him from leaving, but the words wouldn't come. He just nodded. "Yeah, later." The call ended. The silence afterward was loud. Liam knocked softly on the door. "Hey, man. You good?" Ethan blinked, surprised. "You could hear that?" "Not really, I just noticed you didn't sound like yourself." Ethan forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine." Liam studied him for a moment, then said quietly, "You don't have to say that if it's not true." The simplicity of that sentence cracked something inside Ethan. He'd spent months pretending everything was okay. With Tyler. With himself. With the loneliness that followed him like a shadow. But here was someone noticing, caring, without asking for anything in return. That night, Liam ordered pizza and queued up an old movie on the TV. "You need a break," he said, tossing a blanket across the couch. "Doctor's orders," Ethan laughed weakly. "You're not even certified yet." "Hey, close enough," Liam grinned. "Besides, this is cheaper than therapy." They sat together, the soft glow from the screen washing over their faces. The movie played, but neither of them really watched. Ethan felt the comfort of presence, the rare kind that didn't demand words. He caught himself smiling at nothing, simply because sitting there with Liam felt easy. Halfway through, Liam spoke quietly, eyes still on the screen. "You ever feel like you're doing everything right but still end up feeling completely alone?" Ethan froze for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Yeah, every day." Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted again, unspoken, but felt. The air seemed thicker, their silence more intimate than words. Ethan looked away quickly, his heart racing. "We should probably sleep," he said, standing abruptly. Liam gave a small smile. "Yeah, good night, Ethan. Good night." But Ethan didn't sleep easily that night. His mind wouldn't stop replaying the way Liam had looked at him. Gentle, patient, almost like he understood everything Ethan couldn't say. The next day, life moved forward as if nothing had happened. They cooked breakfast, ran errands, laughed about random things. But underneath the laughter there was a growing awareness, a pull that neither of them acknowledged out loud. That evening, while Ethan was finishing up work at his desk, his phone buzzed. It was Tyler. The message was short. "We need to talk." A chill ran through him. Minutes later, Tyler called. "Ethan, I don't think this is working anymore," Tyler said plainly. "We barely talk. You're different. I'm different. Maybe we should take a break." Ethan didn't argue. He'd expected this, though hearing it still hurt. His voice came out quiet. "Yeah, maybe you're right." After the call ended, he sat frozen for a moment. Then, almost instinctively, he felt Liam's presence by the doorway. "You don't have to say anything," Liam said softly. "Just come here," Ethan did. He didn't speak, didn't think. He just let the walls fall for a moment as Liam wrapped him in a quiet, steady hug. There were no words, no promises. Just comfort, real, grounding, human. For the first time in months, Ethan stopped pretending he was okay. The days after the breakup passed in a blur. Ethan went through the motions, work, chores, errands, but everything felt strangely hollow. There was no dramatic heartbreak, just a quiet ache that settled behind his ribs. He wasn't angry at Tyler. If anything, he understood. Distance doesn't always kill love. It just lets silence grow roots where connection used to be. Liam didn't bring it up again. He didn't offer advice or ask questions. Instead, he just stayed. He cooked dinner when Ethan forgot to eat, dragged him outside for walks when the air inside got too heavy, and filled the apartment with music again. Slowly, the place began to feel alive. One evening, about a week later, they sat out on the balcony. The city glowed beneath them, lights stretching like veins through the skyline. Ethan leaned on the railing, the cool breeze brushing against his skin. Liam handed him a mug of tea and said quietly, "You're starting to look like yourself again." Ethan smiled faintly. "Whatever that means." "It means," Liam said, sipping his tea, "that your eyes don't look like they're searching for something you already lost." Ethan stared at him, caught off guard by how easily Liam read him. "You're surprisingly deep for someone who plays video games half the night," Liam chuckled. "Hey, I contain multitudes." They both laughed softly. Then silence. Comfortable this time, the kind that doesn't need filling. After a while, Ethan said, "You know, when Tyler left, I thought I'd feel broken. But mostly I just feel empty. Like I don't know where to put everything I used to feel." "That's okay," Liam said gently. "You don't have to fill the space right away. Sometimes it's good to just sit in it until it makes sense again." Ethan nodded, taking in the words. He didn't realize how much he needed to hear them. Over the next few weeks, life found its rhythm again. They started cooking together, sharing morning coffee, talking about everything from work stress to old memories. It wasn't romantic, at least not in the way people imagined romance. It was quieter than that. It was presence, stability, trust. But every now and then, Ethan would catch Liam looking at him with something unspoken in his eyes. Not desire exactly, something gentler, something patient. And every time it happened, Ethan's chest tightened just a little more. One night they were watching a late movie. The lights were low, the city outside muffled by rain. Ethan had been half listening, half drifting through thoughts when Liam spoke softly beside him. "Ethan, I don't want to make things complicated, but I care about you. More than I probably should." The words hung in the air like electricity. Ethan froze, not out of fear, but because the truth of it landed deep. He turned toward him slowly. "Liam, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Liam replied, his voice steady but soft. "I just needed to be honest. You've been through enough pretending. Ethan looked at him for a long moment. I'm not ready, he admitted. I'm still trying to figure out who I am without Tyler. Liam nodded, a small smile forming. Then that's enough for now. I'm not going anywhere. The movie kept playing, but neither of them really watched it. Ethan sat back, his heart both heavy and light. It wasn't love yet, not in the loud, movie script sense, but something was building there, something real and slow. In the days that followed, nothing outwardly changed, but everything felt different. Their conversations carried a quiet warmth. Their silences felt full, not empty. Liam never pushed, never asked for more. He simply stayed, steady, patient, kind. One Sunday morning, Ethan woke early. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. He found himself looking at the couch, the same one where it all started, the massage, the laughter, the tension he couldn't name back then. It struck him how far they'd come. Not in distance, but in closeness. What began as confusion had turned into clarity. Liam hadn't replaced Tyler.
He'd helped Ethan find the part of himself he'd forgotten while trying to hold on to something that had already faded. Later that evening,
as the sun dipped below the buildings, Ethan joined Liam on the balcony again. They stood side by side, watching the city lights blink to life. I've been thinking, Ethan said quietly. About what you said that night. Liam glanced over. Yeah? I don't know where this goes, Ethan continued. But I know I don't feel lost anymore. And that's mostly because of you. Liam didn't say anything at first. He just smiled, the kind that spoke more than words ever could. Then that's enough for me. They stood there for a while, not talking, just breathing in the cool night air. Ethan found himself narrating quietly in his own thoughts. If life had a rewind button, maybe he would have done things differently. Maybe he wouldn't have let distance break what he once had. But standing there beside Liam, he realized some endings aren't really losses. They're beginnings disguised as heartbreak. As the final scene fades in the viewer's mind, Ethan's voiceover would say, I never planned for any of this to happen. But sometimes life doesn't ask for permission. It just changes direction. Maybe this wasn't about betrayal or guilt. Maybe it was about finding peace in the last place I expected it, right next to me. The camera would fade out on their silhouettes, side by side, city lights flickering beneath them, a quiet promise of something new waiting beyond the screen. Not passion, not drama, just connection, and for Ethan that was finally enough.